Welcome learners. In this session, we're going to discuss about how you can play the videos which you have recorded. As in the last session, we have completed with the recording part. Let's get started. Let's begin our implementation with our class file display video preview screen. Well, did you notice I'm using a stateful widget this time? Let's imagine when you're trying to do a video player. That video player is continuously get played and refresh the screen. Hence, it's a stateful widget. Well, is that the inference or is that the reasoning that comes to your mind? Because if that is the case, it's false. When it comes to a video player, imagine that video is within 1 second, so many times it would refresh. Wouldn't you think that particular case, if we are trying to do as a stateful widget, in 1 single second will refresh the page, for example 30 times, if the frames per second for the video is 30. Imagine a 4K video. In that case, even it would be more than 100 per second. Well, that's not absolutely the case wherein we have the video player screen to be a stateful. In fact, the reason why the video preview screen is stateful is because I'm going to talk about something called as late initialization. Imagine we have, or in fact, all of us have our friend who's always late. Now this late characteristic is very huge loss. That's because if this friend comes to the movie, you'll be late. If he comes to the birthday party, the party starts late. If you invite him for something related to studies, then the study plan is late. Well, this annoying friend of ours is very to be avoided and not something to be part of. Well, that contradicts the opinion in software engineering where late is supposed to be good. That's something weird and you haven't heard this. Let's talk about late initialization. And this is the actual reason why I made my display video preview screen to be a stateful widget. What's late initialization? Now, let's understand when we have null. When we did the code for our video screen, the camera controller was initialized with null. That's because we are not sure whether the permission would be granted, denied. In that case, if it's denied, what's even the point of initializing the camera controller? Because it would lead to a crash. In the same way, if there is no video, why should you even bother to initialize our player? You won't do it. When would the player be initialized? Then, once we have a particular location where we have the video file being saved, then it makes sense to initialize the player. Until then, it doesn't make sense. That comes to the point wherein we are going to use late initialization. Let's dive into our implementation for class display video preview screen state. Well, this state would extend the state class and then we're going to copy within the triangle brackets, paste it and then implement our build function. Now, instead of every time creating the variables with null, I'm going to create my video player controller as a late variable. Did you notice over here I did not put a question mark, hence it's still allowing me to have the variable value as uninitialized. That's the important, guys. So let's try and do for one more variable, that is going to be my Chewy controller. When would these variables then get initialized? So here we are using the init state. What I'm going to do is, if you remember our camera preview screen where we had the image path where the image got saved, similarly I'm going to create string video path. Well, this is the path where video will be saved. Let me do the constructor implementation and then put this as required. In this case, now what will happen is inside the init state, my video player controller will be initialized with my file which will load the video from this particular path. Let me put over here dot file. Now next we have our Chewy controller. Now let's talk about the video controller first. Once the initialization is done, over here we have just initialized the variable. The player is still uninitialized. What do you mean? Well, basically what I'm going to do is create a separate function, future void initialize player and mark this as async. Next, over here I'll put the await keyword, then do initialize. This is the thing which I was talking about. Well, what we are trying to do is, let's say the video path is now having a 2 GB file. The video player will take some decent amount of seconds to get initialized, and that's exactly where we have the await. Next, 0.5, which is the 50% of the actual volume. Next, over the Chewy controller, we will pass the video player controller and set the property for autoplay as true, and then over here I'll say auto initialize also as true. Now coming to the part wherein I was talking about this late variable, look over here. Did any time I have to put an exclamation mark in front of the controller? No. Let's go to the video screen. Look over here. Wherever I was using the cameras list, in fact wherever I was using the camera controller, I had to put question mark in front of it. This question mark means this variable can be null or it cannot be null. If camera controller is null, add listener would fail. If camera controller is null, initialization will fail. Now there were certain points wherein I had to put this exclamation mark. That's something which I hate. Why I hate it? That's because over here I'm specifically saying the coding pattern that force null. What do you mean by that? This variable at this particular point cannot be null, and this basically means we have to put the exclamation mark. If we don't put, we'll get an error. That's exactly where I start to hate the things wherein if I make everything along with this question mark, it throws me error, and that's something which I don't want to see. Hence, I resorted to this late initialization wherein this initialize player will now be getting called at init state. Do you remember the stateful widget lifecycle? Over there, before the build function, this init state gets called, and hence this initialization is surely going to happen. But what will be the case if the initialization took some decent duration to run? Well, in that case, as I was discussing about the loading scenario, we will be having our future builder. Well, what is that? The future builder comes with a future attribute and then a builder attribute. What I'm going to do is put over here the initialize player. So you'll see, if initialize player is supposed to be here, is it really needed here? Let's say we don't do the initialization here and we are dependent only on the future builder. In that case, I'll have, let's say, something called as async snapshot. Now, I'll put an if condition. Snapshot dot connection state equal to connection state dot waiting. Then I'll show the loading symbol, and this loading symbol shall be displayed at the center of the screen. Next, if everything goes well, then we will be showing our entire video on the screen with the help of our Chewy plugin. Let's try and understand whether this thing will work or not. What I'll try and do is put over here return as display video preview screen state, and then try out by navigator dot push, wherein we will be having our string video file path, and I'll try to get the location where it got saved. If this particular file path is going to be null, or for some reason the video did not get recorded, I'll be passing an empty variable. Next, over here, I'll put the context and then display the video preview screen and put video file path in the parameter. Remember, we still haven't done of saving the video into our internal storage. Let's try running our code and check if this particular piece of code works or not. It says restarted application, and let me move to my device. It says camera is loading, and now I'm going to click on this icon to start the video recording. Well, did you notice that over here a bit amount of loading symbol came and then the player got initialized? In fact, do you notice it shows this replay icon along with this? So this signifies that all the icons, and in fact the player icons, got controlled. How did it get controlled? Well, the Chewy player Do you remember? I was showing this preview wherein the overlay icons come automatically and I don't have to do the coding for it. It's all managed by this plugin. That came into effective and hence it's showing this. Well, if you're wondering how did I come into this mode, it's because right now I'm holding my phone in the landscape position. Let's ignore that. What I'll now do is a bit amount of cosmetic changes to put an app bar and see that we are inside the video preview screen. And then at the bottom, we will be having a row which will be having two buttons. One to save the video and the next one to discard the video. So I'll say over here text save followed by over here I'll put discard. Now when I do a hot reload, you get to see all these buttons. Now let's try using this entire row to fill with my button. I'm going to put the expanded save and then put something called as flex as 1. Then let's go to the code. What do you notice? The save button is actually expanded and using the entire width. In fact, it's trying to squeeze the discard button. Let's try putting this expanded over the next filled button also, so that it uses the entire screen width. Well, they both now use 50-50%. Let's put a bit amount of spacing and then do a hot reload. So there is a 10 pixel spacing. Well, what do I intend to do is basically in the video player screen where this video file path got saved is into my cache memory location. Now what I'll try and do is create a video directory and I'll say get application documents directory. Now this video file path, let me save as video name, and in fact let's take the example for this particular camera image path. So over here it had .png. Let me change it to MP4. That's going to be the format for my video. Instead of image directory, I'll put this as video directory and this as video path. Next, I'll use file video path and then like I have done over here, in which I'm trying to save into this particular location. I'll use the X file and then save at the video path location. Now this video file path would be removed, and this would be the path in which my video gets saved. Let's try running our code from the very beginning, and in fact I forgot to do one step. I should be moving this particular line after the save so that I can demonstrate to you what exactly was the video path location. Let's do one round of hot reload. Start with my video recorder. Now I'm going to click on this record button, do some action, and then click on the stop. Well, do you notice over here the video player is actually playing, and we have the save and the discard button. What I want to see is this particular video file path. Well, this shows now app_flutter, which basically means it got saved into the internal storage. Things now would be easy, as because now, like I have done the delete operation in case of my camera preview, and then the OK operation wherein I just move back, I'm going to copy, paste this exact same implementation here, and then make this as async. Here I'll put widget.videopath. Now when it comes to discard, I'm just going to move back without, oh, I did a wonderful job. This should have been discard because I'm deleting the file, and this should be save as we are just moving back without abrupting any changes. Well, let's try doing a hot reload and then pressing this discard button to go back, and then what I understand is I can still hear a bit amount of sound for my player. That's because this video player was never disposed. Well, what is that? So when you're trying to do the video player implementation, even when you are at in a stage where the player is on and you press back arrow, then you are at this particular screen where the camera is on. The video player never got stopped. Hence, in this particular case, let me just dispose dot dispose this video player, and let me see if the same function exists in case of a Chewy. Well, even if it does not exist, once I dispose the video player, this will automatically dispose. Now let's do a hot reload, and this time if I try and do a bit amount of video recording and then click on the back, I no longer hear the video player sound in the background. That's because I have done a complete dispose. Hopefully you like the player wherein we had the entire controls as well as we have implemented the entire video player. Now in the next session, I'm going to talk about switching. We're going to try switching from the back camera to the front camera on camera as well as video player screen. So stay tuned and keep learning with Hoping Minds.